Okay, so can you tell me your name, please?
Yeah, do you want me to look at you or the camera?
Whichever
Doesn't
one
matter.
you're
Okay, it's
comfortable.
probably more comfortable.
Yeah.
So my name is Megan Odenthal, and I'm the project coordinator for the Social Systems Design Lab.
Okay, so what do you do here at Brown School?
So I was formerly a student here at the Brown School. I did my 2-year master's in social work degree, and then through that I got involved with the Social System Design Lab, took the Systems Dynamics course as well as the group model building course, and traveled to India with the lab. And so now I was hired on as a K through 12 project coordinator. So I help to coordinate group model building and systems dynamics experience for youth, and spearhead all of our community relations and partner organizations that do youth empowerment work through systems dynamics.
Oh, okay. So, how did the idea of this event today come about?
Yeah, so this event is lots of many people's shared vision. So lots of different people came to the table to look for an event like this. So for instance, Dr. Kilbride from Rittner School, as well as Dr. LaChance from Rittner Schools, who have been involved with the lab for many years, wanted to take these tools and run a whole institute. And then there was this sort of parallel experience going on, which was the Gateway to Change movement, headed up by Drew Schwartz. And he was looped into the Rittner School Network and to things like that, leading these events, the various student summits on racism. And then our director, the founder and director of our lab, Peter Hoffman, was connected to all these people as well, and really wanted to do an event like this. We believe very strongly as a lab that youth empowerment is really important. Systems thinking at a younger age will lead to better systems of organization in the future. So all of these people came together to create this one experience, and so yeah, that's kind of how it came to be.
Okay. So, what would you kind of like? How would you describe this event in a way?
Yeah. So how I would describe this event. So this event is really exciting because it's designed and led by students and students who have been working with our lab for a while now. I can
Sorry.
You're good. So yeah, this event was designed and led and created by a group of interns, 14 interns, who had worked with the lab previously. We had done work in their high schools before around other issues such as math efficacy and other social justice issues. And so they came together and for a month have been training to be facilitators, as well as designing the agenda and choosing what activities we were going to do and how they wanted the day to unfold over each day to unfold over the next 3 days. So that's really the most exciting part about this for me, is that it's really their vision. And that's, yeah, so I would describe this event as like a youth-led, like a youth-led summit on using systems thinking to approach racism and other social justice issues.
And so, what is systems thinking?
Systems thinking is, in some ways, just the opposite of linear thinking, where you see sort of an event happen and then you see another event happen and you just sort of think like A to B and that's it. Systems thinking is realizing that we live in very complicated and complex systems, and patterns actually are defined by structures that underlie them. So systems thinking is how we uncover some of those basic underlying structural elements of certain things so that we can understand what's going on in the world around us. Yeah, and group model building is a very specific type of systems dynamics that we do as a lab, which is we're building models that will show us what the systems and what the relationships among various parts of the system look like. But we build them collaboratively with groups of people who will be using the models themselves, and it's a form of empowerment that way, as well as like the models are much more useful if they're created actually by people who will eventually be gleaning the insights. So.
Okay. Oh, and can you explain systems dynamics?
Yeah, so systems dynamics was a field that was originally established by a group of people out at MIT, Jay Forrester specifically, and he was using like the principles of systems engineering and things like rate equations and things of that nature to understand how organizational problems worked. And so now systems dynamics has expanded to understand like a variety of complex social issues. So it's sort of trying to build predictive models or build explanatory models to uncover structural behavior and sort of the deeper level issues behind certain social problems.
Okay, so how does systems dynamics and so systems thinking, how does that relate and kind of help the problem with racial injustice?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the exciting thing about this summit is that after Mike Brown was killed and after all of the events in Ferguson and after there were many conversations around the region about changing the system, we started thinking as a lab, well, really, what does that mean to change the system? And I think it's something you hear just sort of socially all the time.
Yeah.
People are always like, we need to change the system. Like, this is a systemic problem. It's a systemic injustice. But I think that we don't really go deeper into what does that actually mean. So there are lots of systems that created the events in Ferguson. There are political systems, there are legal systems, there are various educational systems at play, financial systems, things like that had a certain outcome. So this is trying to tie together all of those things and help just sort of from a youth perspective, from a student perspective, say like, this is the system as we view it, and this is how we think the system can change. This is where we see the important, what we could call leverage points are, which basically like how you can impact things in a meaningful way, in a sustained way. So yeah, that is pretty much how it relates. It's just using, like, let's not attack a problem on a surface level. Let's not look at a problem from just a knee-jerk reaction. Let's understand like these really entrenched ways of being in the world and ways of thinking in people's mental models to uncover and to better ways of dealing with racism in the future.
So why did you use the youth? Why not use adults?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. And one, it's just more fun. Like, honestly, just any event with students is just like you can be more of yourself, and there's just a different energy. Not to I love, I'm an adult and it's great, but really like the students are the ones who bring this sort of like, and they are the ones who like really do believe that things can change. So as you get older, your mental model starts to like really solidify, and you start to like stop thinking that the world like can be changed. But like the group of interns we have and the participants today are like, no, we're going to change the world. Like, we have to change the world. Like, they won't accept it as it is. And I think that's really important for doing this kind of work, is realizing that like, oh, these things can change. It's just going to take a lot of really hard work to do it. I think that was one piece. Also, another piece is that the earlier you get people to start thinking in systems, the more impactful it will be. So they will spend more time in their life thinking in complex ways if you teach it earlier, and if people start to use these tools and get better and better at them over time. So now, like, these people, these students, when they are the future, when they're people who are running the world, they will be thinking of these things in a very complex, nuanced way. They'll be thinking from a systems perspective, and they'll be able to like really make big changes. So I think that's like, those are the main reasons.
Okay, and that's my last question. I don't know if it's too personal, but
No,
how
good.
does systems thinking and systems dynamics affected you personally?
Yeah, let me think about that.
Okay.
You can go ahead, Cross.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you're good. So systems dynamics has affected me personally. It's really just opened up a whole new way of thinking for me, both about like my own personal life, but also about like the social issues that I care about. And now once you start thinking this way, it's really hard to unthink from this perspective. So I was able to get exposed to this through like my education at the Brown School, and really see it put to use in the field. And I saw, for instance, when I went to India, we were working with individuals who had been experiencing like major droughts, had really like scarce resources to sustain their livelihoods, and lots of programs and policies came in and they just attacked something from a very like linear perspective. They just attacked something on the surface. They were targeted at sort of an effect. And systems thinking and systems dynamics is a way to like, let's look at the causes of this, and so we can have like a bigger effect over a more like over a larger time scale, so that we're really changing things. We're not just sort of putting a Band-Aid over things. So I think that's been really insightful, and I've been able to see just the flaws in my own thinking and the way that I like approach issues. I sort of step back and I'm like, is there a feedback loop here that I'm not seeing? What is the relationship that's sort of defining what I'm seeing? And it helps me be a little bit more like take a larger perspective than maybe I would have otherwise. So, yeah.
Oh, I think. Okay, one more question.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so how has systems thinking different from other forms and strategies?
Yeah. So I think that systems thinking is different because it takes a lot of sort of stepping back and really reflecting, and it's not just like rapidly coming up with, answers. It's really sort of laying out everything and laying out, like, there are specific conventions that we use that explain, like, different types of ways that things relate, and it's seeing, like, I guess, the deeper things going on and seeing the bigger picture all at the same time. You're trying to put many things at your head all at the same time, so you're not just attacking poverty, you're not just attacking racism, you're not just attacking, like, bad politics. You're looking, these things are all very interconnected, and so I think it's different that way, that we can have these really rich but also broad conversations all at the same time. So I think that's one way. And the way that we do systems dynamics as a lab, as a SSDL, is very different than maybe other forms of systems dynamics. It's because we really believe, since we're in the School of Social Work, we believe firmly in, like, the ability for people to need to be the ones deciding what changes will be made in their own lives, and they're the expert in their own lived experiences. So yeah, for that reason, like, we believe in giving them the room to tell people what they think and to tell their actual experiences, and then to be able to take that and help them create, like, a whole model with it, and then give that to people perhaps who hold a position of power that could influence their lives. So it's been really exciting. It's really fun work.
Hey, take just a second.
I would. Chill.